Do you know who was the creature bold enough to tempt the very Son of God? Yes, Jesus was alone in the desert, hungry, weak, and defenseless, and it was exactly at that moment that someone appeared. But who was this tempter, and what did he really want? Many know the story, that the devil tempted Jesus in the desert, but what if I told you that this being who tempted Jesus was not the devil we know? This is not just a biblical story, it's a warning. Because the same enemy who tempted Jesus still tempts me and you every single day. It may not be with stones and bread, but with distractions, lies, and offers that look good, yet take us away from God. Today you will discover who this mysterious figure really was and what he wanted with the Son of God. And the most important part of this story is that this spiritual battle reveals a path for us to overcome our own daily struggles. The Judean desert was an arid, lonely place, full of stones, dry hills, and cutting winds. No shade, no comfort. A harsh setting where life seemed not to exist. And it was exactly there that Jesus was led, right after something extraordinary. Just a few days earlier, Jesus had been baptized by John the Baptist. And there, before everyone, a remarkable scene took place. The heavens opened, the Holy Spirit descended like a dove, and the voice of God himself was heard saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." It was the official beginning of Jesus' ministry. But instead of going straight to preach, heal, and perform miracles, the Spirit led him into the desert. That already says a lot, doesn't it? Because in the Bible, the desert was always a symbol of testing and preparation. It was there that the people of Israel walked for 40 years. It was there that Moses encountered God in the burning bush. And now, Jesus would also face his own moment of testing. For 40 days and 40 nights, Jesus was there, fasting. No bread, no water, no one nearby. Just him, creation, and the silent presence of the Father. But he was not alone. As we will see, in that desert, there was also the subtle presence of an enemy, lurking, watching Jesus, waiting for the right moment to strike. After 40 days without food, hunger came. His body began to feel it. His mind was already exhausted. And it was at that moment of weakness that someone appeared, someone who waited for the perfect time, someone who knows humanity very well. The temptation did not come on the first day. It came at the end, when the flesh was weak, when emotions were raw. It was there, at the peak of weariness, that the tempter stepped in. But who was he really? Was he just a force of evil? A symbol, a spirit, or was there something more behind that encounter? To understand this, we need to ask, who in their right mind would dare to tempt the Son of the living God? The being who appeared in the desert to tempt Jesus was no ordinary creature. He was not a common spirit, nor a minor demon. This had to be someone with great intelligence, authority, and knowledge of the Scriptures. But then, who exactly was he? The Bible calls him the tempter, Satan, and the devil. But what if I told you there's a chance that this creature who tempted Jesus was none of those three? Remember what I said, who in their right mind would dare to tempt the Son of the living God? There is one being who had that boldness. He rebelled against God himself. And I'm sure you know him, Lucifer. Yes, Lucifer, the angel who fell from heaven. The one who was once one of the most beautiful and wise of all creation. Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28 speak of an exalted being, full of splendor, who wanted to be like God, and therefore fell. This name, Lucifer, meaning light-bearer, became associated with the greatest enemy of the Creator, and many scholars believe that he and Satan are the same being. Lucifer was an angel, beautiful, intelligent, and very cunning. Though he was expelled from heaven, that did not mean he lost his knowledge and intelligence. If he had the audacity to go against God himself, what would stop him from tempting Jesus in the desert? After all, he had already fallen and knew his end would be defeat. tempting Jesus in the desert would not bring consequences worse than what he had already suffered. So, was it Lucifer who tempted Jesus? The most accepted answer is yes. Because after his fall, Lucifer became known as Satan, the adversary, and he did not lose his intelligence nor his ability to deceive. Now he uses all of it against God and against humanity. And who else would have enough knowledge and boldness to face Jesus face to face, quoting verses from God's own word? Theologians believe that the being who tempted Jesus was Lucifer himself, the most cunning, the boldest, and the most dangerous of all fallen angels. And more, he did not appear with horns and a tail. That image many believe to be Satan is a folkloric invention. In the Bible, there is nothing describing his appearance. On the contrary, he appears in invisible form, subtle and almost imperceptible. Satan does not need a physical body of flesh and blood to act. He works in the mind, in thoughts, in doubts. That is how he affects us. And what makes this even more dangerous is that temptation often comes disguised as wisdom, looking like something good, but behind it there's a plan to draw us away from God. And the most curious part of this story, he appeared exactly when Jesus was at his weakest physically. This shows us that the enemy always acts when we are vulnerable. He waits, he watches, he calculates, but one thing he did not expect: Jesus, though weak in body, was strong in spirit, because Jesus knew the truth, and those who know the truth cannot be deceived. Do you know what's even more interesting? This tempter who appeared at the start of Jesus' ministry is the same one who tempted Adam and Eve in Eden, the same one who deceived so many throughout history, and the same one who still tries to lead us away from God today. But unlike Adam, Jesus resisted. He faced the tempter head-on and showed us how to overcome. And now that we know who the enemy was, we need to understand how he acted. What were the temptations he used, and why are they still so dangerous today? The first thing the tempter does is question the identity of Jesus. He says, "If you are the Son of God, command that these stones become bread." Notice, he doesn't start by saying, "You're hungry, eat." No, he starts with an if. He plants doubt. And that's how he works with us too, trying to make us doubt who we are in God. Jesus was hungry, and turning stones into bread would have been easy for him. But the problem wasn't the bread, it was the reason behind the request. The enemy wanted Jesus to use his power to satisfy himself outside the Father's will. How many times are we tempted to solve things with our own hands? The first temptation is about that, the hunger of the soul, the desire for immediate relief, even if it costs us our communion with God. But Jesus firmly replies, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." In other words, it is not only the body that needs food, the soul needs the word. And Jesus made that clear to us. In the second temptation, the devil takes Jesus to a high place and shows him all the kingdoms of the world, their pleasures and glory. And he says to Jesus, "All this I will give you if you bow down and worship me." This offer is terrifying. The enemy offers power, dominion, fame, all of it in exchange for worship. But notice something. What he offers is not even his to give. He wants to bargain with what he doesn't have. He makes empty promises, promises the world, but delivers spiritual prison. This is the temptation of power, pride, ambition. And even today this happens far more than we imagine. People selling their souls for status, money, or an appearance of success. But once again, Jesus answers with the word, "You shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve." Then comes the third temptation. The devil takes Jesus to the highest point of the temple in Jerusalem and says, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written that the angels will hold you up." This time Satan quotes a verse from Psalm 91. Look at that. The enemy uses the Bible itself to try to manipulate Jesus. Satan is very cunning, my friends. He knows the Bible, he knows what is written, and he tries to use it against us. This is the temptation of spiritual vanity, of wanting to show off, to test God, as if we needed proof to believe. But Jesus answers firmly once more, "It is also written, 'You shall not test the Lord your God.'" After the third temptation, something powerful happened. Satan was defeated. He had no more arguments, no more ground. The Bible says that he left Jesus for a time. Luke 4:13 shows us this. When the devil had finished all these temptations, he departed from him until an opportune time. In other words, he stepped back, but did not give up. He would still look for another moment. This reminds us that temptation is persistent. It may pass today, but it will return tomorrow. That is why we must always stay alert. And after all these temptations, Jesus was victorious. Though weak in body, he remained strong in spirit. At that exact moment after the temptations, angels came and served food and drink to the Son of God. Strengthened, Jesus left the desert and began his ministry. From then on, he started preaching, healing, delivering, teaching. But the foundation of all this was built in that solitude, in that invisible battle. Because before overcoming the world outside, Jesus had to overcome the enemy far from the eyes of the world. Each of these temptations reveals a pattern that still repeats today. They are the same strategies he used with Eve in Eden. The desire of the flesh, the fruit looked good. The desire of the eyes, attractive and pleasing, and the pride of life, to be like God. And they are the same weapons he uses against us to this day. But Jesus showed us it is possible to win, and the key is always in the Word, in knowing who we are, in trusting the Father even when we are in the desert. You know, the more we look at this story, the more we realize it's not only about Jesus, it's also about us. Because if even the Son of God was tempted, who are we to think we won't be? But here's the important detail. Being tempted is not sin. Jesus himself went through it, and he showed us that what defines our victory is how we respond to temptation. There are moments when it feels like no one sees our struggle, isn't there? We go through days when faith weakens, the soul gets tired, and the will is to give up. That's when the enemy whispers, "You are not strong enough. You are not who God says you are. You deserve something better. Why wait on God?" But look at what Jesus did. He did not respond with shouting nor with physical strength. He responded with the word, simple, direct, without giving in. This teaches us something powerful. It's not about the strength of our flesh. It's about the strength of our faith. Temptation will come. The desert will come. But if the word is alive within us, we will have a ready answer. An answer born of trust in God. So let me ask you, when was the last time you were tempted? And what was your answer? Whatever it was, know this. There is still time to choose the right path. Jesus has already shown us the way. God did not lead Jesus into the desert by accident. He could have begun his ministry right away with miracles, preaching, healing, but before all that came silence, isolation, the invisible battle. And it's the same with us. Sometimes we ask, why does God let me go through this? But the truth is, even if we don't understand it at the time, the desert prepares us to live something greater. Jesus left the desert stronger, more filled with the Spirit, ready to fulfill the mission. The desert was not a delay. It was part of the plan, a time of alignment with the Father. And when the enemy tried to divert him, Jesus already knew who he was and what he had come to do. Maybe you are living through a desert right now, feeling alone, tired, without direction. But listen, I have gone through many deserts in my life, and I always came out stronger. We never understand why we go through it while we are in the middle of it. But what if this time you are living is exactly the moment God is shaping your heart? Pain does not come to destroy. It comes to reveal who you really are and in whom your faith is anchored. Just like Jesus, you too can come out of this desert stronger than when you entered. The story does not end in the desert. It only begins there.